kind of mixing of kids where I have some high kids, some low kids, and I pull them together and use them as support for each other. So this is the piece really that I feel like is the hardest part of making small groups, is figuring out who's supposed to be there and when are they supposed to be there, okay? So that gives you a kind of idea of who I bring to small group. Any questions about that? Okay. All right, so how do I group them? If I use data, and most of the time I do, I use data from whatever. If I want immediate data, I use Socrative because I get a nice picture real quick. If you've never used it before, it's like real live data right there in front of you, and then it's super easy to group. I'll use my achievement series data because we use so much achievement series in science and social studies. Sometimes I'll group based on a Kahoot, on their performance, on how well they do their USA test prep. Sometimes I'll ask Google Classroom question, or I'll give them a form and base my groups on that. Bo mentioned that if there's a teacher that he was talking to that used like a survey format and asked his children to say, how are you feeling about this at this moment? And if the students were feeling like they were struggling, then that teacher would pull those kids into a small group right away. I do 9 different groups using scientific equipment. So sometimes it's easier for me, from a management standpoint, to put my kids in a small group doing a lab and then have them do some other things outside of the lab that will help them to understand what they're doing. I'll put kids in Hagen structures in small group. I've done quiz trade in small group. We use Rally Robin in small group. We use whatever will work to make them talk to each other. One of the biggest benefits for me of small group is being able to like foster the collaboration between kids, because a lot of our kids don't know how to do that. They just don't know how to be in a group and work together. If I have analysis questions from labs, I like to do those in small group because my kids will miss the point unless I'm helping them to get through it. And sometimes it's prep work for what's next. So today, I'm gonna show you a little video where I pull the kids into a small group. I show them in the real world what they're getting ready to do on a simulation on their iPad, because in my past experience, when I give them that particular activity, they don't know what to do. They get stuck on the, like, how to make this work. And they miss the whole point of what they're supposed to learn. So for me, putting that into a small group where I can let their hands be on something, and then they go out and do it on the iPad, makes it a lot simpler for them to get to rotations, because that's like the old word. I shouldn't use rotations, I should say small group. But really my goal is to make sure that I speak to each of my students one-on-one once a week. Which doesn't sound like much, but when I teach 120 kids in one day, it's easy for me to go through 5 days and realize I'd never even spoke to that child in any kind of way except to say hello. So for me, it's partly, I want to make sure I see their face and I speak to them and they know that they're cared for and that sort of thing. So I use small group in my head. My goal is 2 times a week. Sometimes I make one small group plan that lasts 2 or 3 days. It just depends on what we're doing. What did they do, those other ones? This is a really dark picture, and I'm sorry, this projector's real old. I make an effort to have them working in pairs or working independently in my room while I'm in small group. And I do that because I like to give them a chance to talk to each other. And some days it works really well, and some days it doesn't. It depends on what I give them. If I don't give them a good enough activity or good enough work outside of my small group, then they play and they are loud and they are, they come to me too much, okay? But I do have desks around the edge of my classroom facing the wall, and I tell them I'm not trying to make them feel isolated, but I am. Because when they're at the edges, I want them working independently. That's where they go to work by themselves. And then I have tall tables around the room. You all know how my room's set up, where I usually have them working in pairs at those tall tables. And then my small group is typically in the middle. Sometimes it's off to the side. Sometimes I use this back corner for small group. It just depends on what I'm doing. But I like them to be able to work in pairs. And if they're working in pairs at these tables, I can watch them and I can see what they're doing while I'm in my small group. And that'll become clearer once we show the video. Sometimes I say, okay, here's what you have to get done today, and I'm going to interrupt you to pull your first small group. Sometimes that's how they work. Sometimes it works like I'll have them in pairs and then I'll just switch the kids out. It really just depends on the day. The most important thing that I have found with these outside groups is that it's something that they buy into, and that takes a lot of work. I mean, I haven't got it all down to a science at all, but there are some things I know that they can do by themselves, like an ed puzzle, like watching a video and answering some questions, like building a Padlet, things that I feel comfortable letting them go do by themselves. It's worth it to me because of my kids' relationships. There's no way I'm going to get to know my children if I don't pull them in a small group. I'm just not going to get to know them. It's a chance for me to speak to every kid. It's easier for me to keep them on task while I'm in a small group. If I'm going to give whole group instruction up to 35 kids, there's a good chance that 15 of them are not with me. There's probably a better chance that more of them are not with me. But if I have them in small group, if I have 8 kids in front of me, I can like snap in their face and say, hey, wake up, you're with me right now, focus on this. And I can force them into those conversations a lot easier than when they're all doing the same thing. Kids become more comfortable asking questions, which is so important in my particular content. If they don't understand it or if they really just wonder something, that's the chance that I get to talk to them. The truth is, my favorite part about small group is when we get off task, is when it's like we kind of bird walk around because they are interested in something and it gives us the chance to build relationships and to talk to each other. I reflect a lot. And you know, part of this came from when I went through national boards, like that whole process of reflecting on what you do is sort of stuck with me. If I have a day, one of those days where I'm like, man, I didn't teach these kids anything today, I know at that point it's time for me to put them in a small group. It's feeling, it's, you know, the feeling. You know you're not doing what you need to do for the kids. So I get that thought, I get that feeling, and I say, okay, now it's time to go to work for me to make sure that what I have for them is engaging. I reflect on activities. Because I've done this for so many years, I think about things I know that kids miss the point on. Good, solid stuff that I have in my bag that kids miss the point on. And nothing makes me more frustrated than when I know the activity is so good and they should get something out of it and they miss it. That to me says put it in a small group, because then I can foster what they need to learn from that. And then, what's next? Oh, I create task cards. I know a lot of you do this because I think I stole the word task cards from somebody else.
Based on the answers, I'll group the kids and I can kind of help them review. So if they need no review on the Industrial Revolution, there's no point in having them get in a small group on the Industrial Revolution, so I'll put them somewhere else where they may have needs.
I was sticking to the map scores, but they're not always true because they may not have felt it. But I'm going to really pull that
right now I'm doing it in learning strategies for macro scale.
It's a good start, but I don't want to babysit the ones that can't.
You know, we're going to all be doing
Yeah, especially the others.